Hi everyone. I'm making this video to talk about some of the issues with Loopy Pro around presets and preset selection. I thought a video would just be a lot easier than typing stuff in. There are, of course, a number of features requests that myself and other great users have put into the roadmap. However, they are not overly well linked together. I do plan on adding this video to those feature requests as best I can find them. This really is for, or driven by, if you will, guitarists and instrumentalists who have more than just a few presets. And the issue centers on really, as I see it, kind of three things. One is selectability, being able to select a preset without selecting other presets or without actions or other things happening with other presets, going right to the preset you want and being able to select that one and nothing else. So that's part of the issue. There's a visibility issue as well, knowing which specific preset is selected, even when some similar presets might be kind of grouped together in the same audio bus. That's part of the issue. And then finally, blending. For guitarists or instrumentalists, even if part of this was worked out, someone might say, hey, I've got a funky preset, I've got a clean, and I want to be able to kind of blend those two together. And on the surface, you may think that there's not an issue here, but there is an issue, especially knowing what was originally selected. There is an outline in the video, so you can go from section to section. Again, I realize that for some guitarists who are just recording with Loopy Pro, or guitarists that just have a small number of presets, they can make things work as is, but there are a lot of guitarists who would much rather take something like this to the gig than something like this to the gig. But alas, we cannot do that because of these preset issues. Again, the issues are really what I would call table stakes for guitarists that are used to pedal boards, with a fair number of pedals and they have a switcher, or with multi-effects processors where they're used to being able to, dial in that one preset without, again, other actions and other things happening. So you can go through the sections and kind of get a handle on, what the definitions are and what the functionality issues are and what blending means and that kind of thing. So thanks for watching, and please, if you're a guitarist or instrumentalist, vote. Help to bring the functionality up to par with multi-effects processors like the Helix or Axe-Fx or Bosses or some of the other ones, right? I love the idea that I have professional or studio grade plugins that I could use for my live performances, but without the preset capabilities, that kind of means nothing. Hi everyone. I wanted to make a video about the feature requests for presets in Loopy Pro. Presets here is in context to guitarists or instrumentalists who are using Loopy Pro kind of like a pedal board or multi-effects processor. So I believe a video is a lot easier to watch and understand than reading through a lot of the feature requests that are for this topic. However, just to be fair, there is great dialogue between different members or users in those feature requests, so they are worth looking through as well. Also, obviously, I feel the video represents the drive or the main thought behind presets in Loopy Pro, but again, there are different users, and certainly in some of the feature requests there's some nuanced differences. So let's go. So a great place to start is a simple definition of preset, so we are all on the same sheet of music, pun intended.
Quite simply, a preset means a collection of plugins or effects, a unique collection of plugins or effects, and the unique settings for each of these, and it has to be really across the entire project or session. In other words, I have this one unique sound in mind that's my blah 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 preset, whatever label I slap on it. And implied with this concept is that I need to be able to, do something to select this unique sound or to create this unique sound. Something simple. I'm not going to have to go in and tweak a bunch of stuff. I just need to bring up this preset, this unique sound, which is a collection of plugins and the specific settings for these plugins. Yeah. So now that we have a nice definition of what a preset is, let's talk about the number of presets and a grouping concept. So every musician, every guitarist is different, and some guitarists will have a relatively small number of presets, 4, 5, 6, or 7, or however many, and they're kind of distinct, and in their head, that suffices for whatever they're doing. They can get all the sounds they want out of that small number of presets. Then, of course, there are other musicians that have a lot of presets. Some are, may have, a dozen, and some may have, many, because they play maybe different genres, and they have, a number of presets for their heavy metal, and a number of presets for their 80s band, and a number of presets for, this genre or whatever. They may keep them in different projects and so on. So the number varies by musician. That's kind of common sense, I hope. But the other concept is kind of grouping. And for this, I want to go back to the old stomp box days. This is really where presets came about. So foot pedals, a pedal board and foot pedals, as they became, standard for every guitar player, we got to have some effects, and it became standard. The challenge was that when I wanted to change sounds, it got to the point where I had to do some tap dancing. I had to turn these two stomp boxes or these two pedals off and turn these three on, and then the next song I had to turn these two off and these four on. And I had to bend down and tweak this and that. And so that was kind of the norm. And then in the physical world for pedal boards, switchers came along. Two things actually happened. Switchers came along, which a switcher looks physically, here's a picture, looks physically, like a stomp box or like a pedal, but its only purpose is you plug all of the other pedals into this, and then with a single switch, you can turn different pedals on and off, almost a little bit like programming it or something, so that, again, with just pressing one switch, you can turn a number of things on and off. The other thing, of course, that came along in the pedal board world was digital and multi-effects processors, physical units that turn the analog into digital, and then you would have different effects. But back to the preset concept, and where does this come in? Okay, where it comes in is that for some guitarists, for some instrumentalists, there are several different presets that are similar in nature, but they may differ by one or two plugins. And I'll give you just a great example. I have a funky preset that I like, and I have one that does not have a compressor plug-in or pedal, but then I have a different funky where I like to add a compressor. And so in my head, they're very similar to each other. They're both funky presets for funk music, but one I use a compressor and one I don't. Now, certain guitarists, especially those that don't have many presets, their thinking is, we'll just have another button to turn on or off the compressor. And that's certainly one approach. Loopy Pro, of course, supports this right now as of summer 2024. But for other guitarists, other instrumentalists, like, no, I don't want presets and extra buttons to turn things on and off. I want to encapsulate everything into a specific preset, so I don't have to think sometimes, hit this preset button or select this preset and then also do this other thing. It kind of spoils the whole concept of a preset, right? Being a plugin or a collection of plugins and the specific settings for those, right? In other words, I've got this certain group of plugins that are encapsulated or come together under one button, under one flip of the dial or whatever to select it, and then I got to go hit something else, So some presets that are similar in nature, as far as the perspective of the guitarist, they'll still be different or separate presets, but they might be mentally, they're kind of grouped together. I just wanted to bring this up because in my examples, in my UI example, we're going to talk a little bit about that as well. And you can call them anything you like. I'm going to give them, a label of group or variants. I've got a funky preset, or I've got a funky preset and I have 3 flavors of it or 3 variants. But labels aside, they're still unique, different presets. They just are intended to produce, in my head or in the guitarist's head, some similar sound. And for some folks, and many folks, they want them as separate presets. And then for other folks, no, I can just have, a preset for my funky stuff and then a separate button to turn on or off the compressor or on or off the delay or whatever it is that I want to add to the preset. So both need to be supported. And I just wanted to kind of bring out that group concept.
Hi everyone, I wanted to come on camera real quick and try to just bring closure or clarification to that section. It seems things I said might be kind of juxtaposed or contradictory, but that's really not the case. I mean, it's simple. Every preset is a unique sound. And there are some musicians who know that I have a distortion and I want to add a delay. I think of it as, just adding a delay to that. But there are many other musicians that really, each unique sound is a preset, and I want to go directly to my distortion without the delay. I want to go directly to my distortion with the delay. I want to go directly to my funky without a compressor, directly to my funky with a compressor, right? Distinct, unique presets. I want to go right to that one. I don't want to have to remember to go to, preset number 6 and then click on, or, do some other action to get to preset number 7. I want to go right to preset number 7. And yes, there's some people on the other hand, they're okay with the extra tap dancing, as we used to call it in the pedal board world. So yeah, you're not going to please them both, but make sure capability-wise, functionality-wise, each unique preset we can go to. We'll talk about in the functionality part coming up here, the visibility and selectability. New word in the English dictionary there, but yeah. Each unique preset needs to be able to be selected directly. Okay? I hope that helps, and thank you for watching.
And so we talked about, a basic definition for preset, a collection of plugins and the specific settings for those. And then the idea that in some cases where there's not just a few presets, users have a thought of grouping them. Sometimes there's like or similar presets that might be grouped together. Although each one in the group or each variant might be unique, sometimes depending on the user, there are groupings. There's also the concept of a name or a label. And this is very, kind of open or generic. Every guitarist or instrumentalist has some different thoughts about how they name their presets. The purpose is to help identify them, one from the other. Be it a step dial or radio grid button, whatever is used, the labels have some meaning. In some cases, guitarists will name them based on, somewhat the type of sound. Maybe there's a funky preset because it has kind of a funk sound, or maybe there's a clean because there's no distortion in it. Maybe there's a distorted or several distortion pickups, like a rhythm or a heavy lead. Or a 90s grunge distortion. Sometimes they name presets, label them by a certain song that they're in, or a certain even part of a song, like this is the blah 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 song verse, this is the blah 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 song chorus. Some instrumentalists have so many presets they align them to a set list, and for each song they want to bring up that one or two or those three presets in that one song that they will use. Others can make a handful or a smaller number of presets, that would work for an entire set or set list. Again, the labeling is just different for each musician, each guitarist, and how they think about and how many they have and how they think about using them. So we've started off this by providing a definition of a preset. We talked a little bit about groups of presets that might have similar sounds or similar sets of plugins, and how some folks would take advantage of that, or other folks might just want to stomp box, to just add in a separate plugin. Either way, no worries. And now we're going to talk about the functionality, dig in deeper to the functionality of some of the feature requests. And I'm going to do that through a sample project, and I'm going to kind of look at three different aspects of the functionality. The first is simply visibility, and then the second is selectability, being able to select your preset and know which one you have selected. And then I'll have a separate section on a deeper topic, and that is, actually blending more than one preset together. So let's look at the sample project and jump in. So I have this project, and in this project I have 9 unique presets, 9 unique or distinct sounds, 9 different presets. Now it turns out, coincidentally, that some of these presets have some similarity. For example, I have a clean preset by itself, and I have a clean with a delay. 2 totally different presets, 2 unique sounds. One has a delay, one doesn't. By definition, it's a collection of plugins and the unique settings for those plugins. 2 totally different presets. I have a clean preset, which I already mentioned, and I have a clean with a harmonizer. Again, 2 completely different presets. Now, because some of these presets use similar sets of plugins, right? My clean with a delay and my clean without a delay has some of the same plugins, not all of the same, but some of them. And because of that, I've decided to group them by putting them into the similar ones into a single audio bus. I could easily and just as correctly and just as simply created 9 audio buses. But I didn't do that in part because of the real estate issue, right? There's only so much screen, and now I have to try to scroll left and right. If I put each preset in a unique audio bus, and I have 9, 10, 12, 13, 14, 15, I'm taking up so much space. Where it makes sense, and it's simply coincidental based on each individual user and how many presets they have and what's similar and what's not and what might be grouped and what doesn't. Where it makes sense, I happen to group them together. And in this case, for ease of demonstration, I have 3 groups of 3 each preset. So I have 9 unique presets. please, 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 please don't get hung up on, the 3 groups of 3. It's simply coincidental. Again, I could have put each in a separate audio bus, in which case I would have duplicated some of the plugins. But you can do that in Loopy. There's nothing wrong with it. It makes it a little more hard to see where things are being used sometimes, but it is what it is. It just happens to be for the demo, I had 9 unique presets, and they kind of grouped into 3 groups of 3, coincidentally. Please don't get hung up on the number 9 or 3 groups of 3. Thanks. So yeah, don't get hung up on the number 9. Every user has, a unique number of presets. Some of them may group presets together, some may not. Oh well. So we've got a definition. We have a definition of grouping. We've shown kind of what some of this looks like just at a high level. And there's an assumption here about the use of audio buses. And I want to delve into that a little bit just to make it clear. I'm kind of assuming that we're going to keep, or we're going to reuse pretty much the same signal path that Loopy Pro currently has summer of 2024. And I have a picture of that here. It's not perfect. I think I've left out the straight through path, but I think it helps set the stage for where the audio buses come in and why those are the best candidate to house a preset and or a group of presets. Simply, the signal comes in, it could go to the loops in the top path. The signal comes in, it could go to the audio buses in the bottom. It can go straight through as well, but if it goes to the audio buses, then there's 2 choices. From the audio buses, you can route it over to the loops, or you can route it out to the main out. And when you look at this picture, again, there's an assumption here that we're going to kind of reuse whatever audio signal path is there now in Loopy Pro. And so the best place to put the preset, or preset groups, if you will, is in the audio buses. And again, whether I have just a few presets or I've got a ton of them, this seems really the most sensible place to put a preset or preset group. Going by the definition as a unique collection of plugins and those settings for those plugins. So that's why in this demo project you'll see 3 preset groups, a total of 9 unique presets, and each group kind of gets its own audio bus. I've got an audio bus or a preset group for the clean, one for the distortion, and then one for the funky. And then again, I just happened to pick a number 9, but could have been any number of presets. Each of these unique presets, the groups have different variants. So, I might have a funky with a compressor. I might have a funky without a compressor. I might have a funky that has some overdrive on it. And those would be 3 unique, distinct, totally different. They're not perfectly identical, but they're different funky presets that I have. But they may use some, I've kind of made an assumption that they would likely use some of the same plugins. And so I shoved them together in a group. I could have separated them out. But the best place to kind of house a group of presets or a single preset would be in an audio bus. And so what that means is when the signal comes in through the input, when I run my guitar or my instrument in through the input, and I want to engage that preset, or that preset group, I need to route that audio through the fader to route it to a specific audio bus. So in this screen snapshot, you can see by pressing one of the buttons in the first set of radio grids, I'm saying, or I'm using actions within Loopy Pro to say, hey, no matter which one of these variants I'm using, I want to route all of the audio to bus A. That's my quote-unquote clean, one of my clean presets. And then the other actions will change the settings. We might enable or disable certain plugins in Audio Bus A and change the settings of some of these plugins in Audiobus A to get that specific variant of whatever A is, I'll call it clean. So that's what this represents here. You can see where the fader is. I believe they call them fader on the input bus, where the guitar comes in, and then you can see the route, the signal is going into, all of the signal is going into Audiobus A, and none of the signal goes into B or C, because those are not clean, or those are not the first set of presets. And then depending on which button I press in the radio grid, the first, second, or third, again, different plugins would be enabled or disabled, and different settings within those plugins would be chosen, so I have a unique sound or a unique preset for the whole project. So that's what this picture here shows. Likewise, this picture here shows the same thing, but now maybe this is my funky preset. One of my funky presets. I have 3 variants of it, in fact. And, a user might have more than that or less than that. But in any case, Audiobus C is where my funky presets are at, and I'm routing all of the audio signal from the input from my guitar. All of it's going into Audiobus C, and then depending on which of these 3 radio grid buttons I pick, could be just one button, could be 2, 3, 4, 5, however many variants of funky someone might have, or how many variants of this type of preset someone has, then the unique set of plugins within Audiobus C would be enabled or disabled, and the unique settings for those plugins would be chosen. So I'm going to get a unique sound for each of these 3 buttons in my funky preset, or in preset C. Well, congratulations. You've made it to the selectability part. And of course, there is no such word in the English language, but since this is about new features, why not have a new word? Just to recap, we've talked about the definition of preset being, kind of a one or a collection of plugins, and the unique settings for those plugins to create a unique sound as a whole, kind of coming out of Loopy as if it were a pedal board. And then we talked about how sometimes, coincidentally or on purpose, several unique presets might use some of the same plugins or have a similar sound, and we could group those to put them all into a single audio bus. We don't have to do that. Depends how many presets you have. Every guitar, every instrumentalist is different. But if that were the case, you could group some presets and route the stuff to that audio bus, and then turn plugins on or off, or change settings depending on which unique preset you needed. We showed that with the visibility part. We've said that Loopy already supports being able to kind of list things, be they in radio grid buttons or step dials or whatever. And so now we're to the place where Loopy does not support presets well. And really that is selectability. And this is the ability or the inability to directly select a preset. And this is where many of the feature requests go into detail about this issue or this problem with Loopy. So selectability is the core issue here. The crux of the issue is that in selecting, or in the process of selecting a specific preset, the software should not select or should not execute any actions related to any other presets. I'm just after this one preset, and I don't want you to trigger actions for other presets as I select the one I want. It's easiest to see, of course, in a step dial. And again, many of the feature requests talk about this type of thing. But let's start with the assumption that I have a step dial, and its sole purpose is that each step in the step dial represents a unique preset that I intend to use during, some performance or something. Each step is a unique preset. And with each step, then, of course, each step has a unique set of actions, such as routing the input faders to a specific audio bus, or enabling or disabling plugins, or changing settings on certain plugins. All the stuff that gives that preset its unique sound, right? And the problem, of course, here is that as I move from step to step to get to that one preset that I'm after for this next song, right? I have to stop at, and the software is going to execute actions in each step along the way, right? Once I've turned that dial, and it lands on some in-between step, not the one I'm after, but an in-between step, then I've selected it, so to speak, and the actions associated with that are going to execute, but I don't want them to. That's the crux of the problem. I only want the actions to execute to that actual preset that I'm after, okay? Now, another way to say this is like, hey, look, you can't count up to 5 in whole numbers without going through 2, 3, and 4, right? And when I turn that dial and I get the in-between steps, those actions for those in-between steps are going to execute, and I don't want them to. Okay? Now, you might say, hey, why not just use like radio grids? You showed this example. I showed an example in the previous section where I had 3 radio grids, I had 9 unique presets, and now look, from a visibility perspective, I can see that exact one I'm after, and I can just touch it on the screen. But of course, the problem here is that guitarists, instrumentalists, especially guitarists, they've got a pick in one hand and their other hand's on the guitar. And we need to change presets in between songs and even during a song. Going from the chorus back into the verse, I use a different preset on many songs. Going from my lead back to my rhythm, I use a different preset, and so on and so on. So many guitarists, I'm not saying every last one, but many of them use MIDI controllers, and they'll use kind of a nudging feature. Whatever is managing the selection of presets, they'll need to nudge through that to get to the one they want. In many cases, not in every last case, but in many cases. And this is the crux of the problem, is that, I need to be able to nudge through, to scroll through, to pass through, to move through selections or different presets to get to the one I want without having the actions for the others executed. A great example that someone provided in one of the feature requests, not myself, another user, it's a brilliant example of how the software might function, is that of a drop-down box. And it's just the perfect visual example. In a drop-down box in software, I think they call it a select in HTML, but whatever. Visually, I'm showing it here on the screen. You have the ability to move through items, to scroll through items, to move through items without anything being executed. It's not until you pick a specific item and truly select that item in the list that the execution or something can start to happen. And so the software needs this type of behavior. I did not say that you need a drop-down box. I'm just using this analogy to best represent the type of functionality that's needed. I also realize that there's 2 parts to this. I mean, this is kind of common sense. One is that the user has to communicate to the software that it's just scrolling through, right? Versus once it finds that item, once the user finds the item, whether they're using a tapping a foot switch on a MIDI controller or turning a step dial or whatever, once they find that specific item, they have to indicate that this is the one I want out of the list. So there is some common sense. I understand there's more work on the user part, but the software has to change to support that functionality as well.
First of all, thank you so much for watching this video. I hope I've made it clear what the issue is here with the selectability. As you pass through, as you nudge through, scroll through, whatever terminology, to get to that one preset you want, the actions associated with the other presets will execute when they should not. But there's more involved here to this issue as well. The radio grid has a follow actions capability that lets it kind of light up. Whichever button is selected will color in or light up. I'll use that terminology. And this doesn't work well, or it's problematic whenever you have several unique presets that you want in the same audio bus, and you want the radio grid buttons to then select that preset. Because some of the actions might be the same, like I'm routing the fader all to the same audio bus, and I might even turn on some of the same plugins. Again, they're in a group, so to speak. They're unique presets, but they use some of the same plugins, and that the different actions for the different radio buttons, some of those actions are identical. Some are not. That's what makes them unique presets. So there's issues with the radio grid button displaying what was actually selected. It's not clear. There are other issues with the software as well, but I kind of put that with the visibility and the selectability part. I hope this video makes these issues clear. I don't want to dictate the solution by any means, but I hope, maybe I have a bias. I hope you don't put a drop-down box. I would rather see modifications to the existing widgets that allow for this selectability issue, that allow me to nudge through or scroll through or step through, optionally allow that without the actions happening, and then somehow I can communicate to the software that, I've got to this preset I want. I've nudged through, and now I'm at the one that I want, and now you can execute these actions, and also fill in the radio grid button, or make it color it so I know. It's critical that the user not just be able to select the preset and just those actions execute, but also that the user is aware which button did they press, which preset is being turned on or executed. A related feature request that someone has is that we create a text label that you could kind of dynamically set, and this would help a little bit. It might be kind of one solution to not the selectability part, but just communicating to the user, hey, here's the current preset that you're on. If the different widgets could dynamically set a label, that may help there. But the functionality needs to change in the software to support the selectability and then the visibility, so the user can know, hey, even when several buttons in a radio grid, or several different buttons have the same action or similar actions, that the one that was pressed, the one that was indicated, I want this particular preset, that button would be highlighted, or the color would be filled in. Again, thanks so much for watching. We're almost in the home stretch here, so hang in there.
So this is the last section on functionality. It's about blending presets, and also I'll touch a little more on visibility, which is kind of an issue that I've faced. So blending is very simple. It's based on the concept that we are using audio buses for presets or preset groups, and to blend, we would simply, instead of routing 100% of the audio signal to one audio bus, aka one preset or one preset group, then I would route, some percentage of the input signal to one of the presets or one of the audio buses, and then I would also route some signal to a different audio bus or different preset or preset group. And having the audio signal go, or some audio signal go to more than one audio bus or more than one preset group, now I can kind of blend that sound together. I can also, of course, control some of the output with the faders, but that would be kind of a different thing. The users could do that if they wanted. But I'm talking really just about blending the input, the faders that come out of the input channel that would go to the various audio buses, again, each being a different preset or preset group. And I have a picture of that here, a little video. Again, it's pretty simple. What I've done is I've created a slider control, and it moves one of the faders up and one of the faders down. You can kind of see it in action here. And that would give me some blend of the presets, a blend of funky and clean, or a blend of distortion and funky, or whatever. So that's blending in a nutshell. Let's talk about visibility, because blending opens up an issue, right, a little bit. If I have selectability in Loopy Pro, if I can select a unique preset through nudging, through step dial, or through nudging a radio grid or other widget, I have a unique preset, and then I say, well, hey, hang on a second, I want to blend that with a second preset. Then it's important to determine what happens to the control that is telling you what preset is selected. Okay? If I have a radio grid button and I'm selecting preset number 6, and then I start to blend preset number 3 and number 6 together, well then, what should the UI tell me? And I feel like, you could probably ask 3 different users and get 5 different opinions, right? I feel that what I would like to see, and I have a feature request, Dan, is I really want to see the initial preset that I've selected to be, I'll say, colored in or lit up if it's a radio grid button, or if it's a step dial, to be displayed, the name of that preset that I originally selected to be displayed. Even though I have blended the sound, and now that sound is not per se 100% of that audio bus or preset group, the sound is a blend of something, I still myself would like to see the original preset selected displayed. Mentally, to me, that's the starting point of where I'm at, right? And again, I would be using MIDI. Many guitarists, many instrumentalists would be using MIDI foot switches and MIDI expression pedals to do the blend, right? Because their hands are busy with their instrument. But I think it would be of value to display the original preset that was selected. And in the current version of Loopy Pro, this causes a problem, because these actions are tightly coupled to the radio grid buttons. And so if I hit a radio grid button and it says send 100% of the signal to audio bus C, and then I have a slider that allows me to change the fader, and so I'm not sending 100% to audio bus C. Maybe I'm sending 70% to C and 20% to A or something with this slider and an MIDI expression pedal. Now that action is tightly coupled to that radio grid button, and it doesn't light up, it doesn't color in, or the software gets kind of confused in current state, summer of 2024. So I have a feature request in to decouple the actions from the. You can do a disable. In the settings, you can disable the actions with the button, with the radio grid button. But I really want to see, again, I want to see the button I pressed. I want to see the preset I initially selected. Even if I'm blending two presets together, I want to see what mentally was my starting point. Another related feature request that several users have is to have a text box, a separate text label widget that can be changed dynamically. And this also kind of could be a solution. Whenever I have my preset controls, whether they're step dial or radio grid widget or just a buttons, whatever I decide to use, I could build into those actions that would change this text label that tells me what the current preset is. Then I could just always look at that text label and say, oh, I'm at my distortion funky, or I'm at my funky without a compressor, or I'm at my clean preset with a delay. Whatever text label I wanted to give each of my presets, I could have an action to set that text label to the name of that preset. And then I could slide the slider, or if I wanted to blend two presets together, I could do the blending and not change the name of that text label, the text or the context or the words of that text label. So that would be an approach as well. I just feel like if you give the ability to truly select, again, the selectability main issue, if I could truly select a single preset, a single item in a step dial, a single item in a radio grid, if I could scroll through without any of the other ones executing the actions for these other in-between steps or in-between presets, without those things executing, if I have that capability, I also want the capability to blend two things and not have the software get all confused. 3, 2. Hey everyone. Well, this is the end here. Thank you so much for watching the video. In whole or in part, I realize it's a long video. I'm not just trying to make a long video, but I really wanted to bring a clarity to the complete issue here of preset selection. The select part, moving through, stepping through, nudging through to get to a specific preset without any unwanted actions, without anything else happening, just that one preset. Visibility, being able to know what the preset is that was last selected. And in being able to know what was last selected, even if I want to blend other presets together. Being able to blend, I want my, I want to select my distortion, but then I want to blend in some clean, right? Kind of mixed faders kind of thing. And still being able to know what was last selected. Guitarists, it feels like to me, guitarists in the Loopy Pro software kind of get the short end of the stick a little bit compared to, non-instrumentalists, or I should say, people who are using iPad. They're very creative. Don't hear what I didn't say. People who are using, MIDI controllers and iPad just to create music. It's very cool stuff. But if you look at the music market, just in general, look at the pedal market. There are thousands of pedals over the years. Yeah, there are, over the years, thousands of foot pedals for guitarists, on the market, right? And that doesn't even, not to mention the multi-effects processor. I mean, guitarists will drop $2,000 on, in the ballpark of $2,000 on a high-end multi-effects processor. And what about amps?
I mean, just walk into a Guitar Center store and there's a wall of different amps, you know, all kinds of different amps. The guitar market is just insane, right? I mean, it's just, you know, it's huge. Loopy Pro could easily triple or quadruple its user base. Easily do that with guitarists in a year. But if the software truly supports preset selection for live performances, we're not talking about recording here. This is about, you know, being on stage and pressing a button and getting exactly the preset I want, and no unwanted effects or no actions from, you know, nudging through other presets. And being able to see what was last selected, you know, clearly in the UI. And if I start blending stuff, you know, having the software still show me what was last selected, not getting all, you know, clunky or whatever. So if you're watching this video again, I just want to say thank you so much for watching in part or in whole. I hope it's helped to bring clarity. Please don't put workarounds in the comments. You know, I've seen workarounds and shadow buttons and shadow this, and, you know, I got to make 2 or 3 of something, and this one calls this one and that one. And this stuff isn't worth the time, right? I feel like guitarists, again, get the short end of the stick a little bit when it comes to features that are chosen. I realize it's chosen by the user base, but I feel like, you know, Loopy Pro has to do something to attract guitarists, and it can quadruple its user base if it would take that step. So thank you again, and yeah, have a great one.